Welcome back. Today is the 1st of October and it is officially spooky season. And I thought there was no better way of celebrating that than delving into my own paranormal experiences and those of my family. We're gonna delve into everything paranormal today, and I just wanted to celebrate the fact that it is the 1st of October. So let's delve into these. I'm gonna start with my very own stories, and then we're going to move on to my family's. So one night I was home alone. This was back when I lived with my parents, and I was cooking myself either pasta or gnocchi, and I had my dogs to my left and they were just chilling. So the stove was against the wall, pretty much in the middle of the kitchen, and you had the front door to your right if you were cooking at the stove, and then the back door to the left. So the dogs were chilling in their beds by the back door, and I just heard growling coming from maybe one of them, and this spread to all of the dogs and they started growling even more. And the creepiest part of this story is that as I looked at the back door, there was no one there, but as I looked at the back door, I could see the dogs looking up at the back door. But then they started to back away, and it wasn't like they were just backing away for no reason. They were backing away and they were looking up at something, as if to say something was walking towards them and towards me as a result. So it was no longer the fact that they were looking at the door, because that's what I thought was happening to start with. They were really looking at something in front of them that was moving towards them, and this, for lack of better words, creeped me the hell out. And I actually can't remember what I did. I think I just tried to ignore it. That has stuck in my mind to this day. If I ever think about paranormal experiences, that is one that will come to the forefront. My second story is a little bit less eventful, but still pretty spooky. I was getting ready for bed and I went into the kitchen to get some water, and I turned the lights off to go upstairs. And as I was walking down the hallway to go up the stairs, I noticed one of the downlighters, it was flickering in a very random, it wasn't like a periodic way, it wasn't like a fixed sort of, you know, like a strobe light. It was a random flickering basically. And I think I remember it being a different colour to the light, which again is weird because how could it flicker a different colour when the bulb only gives off one light? So I cautiously, that was really weird. It was like maybe I'm overthinking it. It's cloudy outside and I felt like I saw lightning, like anyway. I walked into the kitchen and it was still doing it, so I turned the light back on and it was fine. Turned it back off and I think it did it one more time, so it just carried on. Then I turned it back on, turned it off again, and it was fine. I don't know, maybe some electricians out there can let me know what that is, but what makes it worse is that all of these stories happened, or these two stories at least, happened in my parents' house, which was built in
1780.
So there's going to be a lot of history to that house, and if you believe in the paranormal or something, you know, beyond life now, it raises a lot of opportunities for different spirits to be in there and to, you know, show themselves in one way or another. Now, this next experience is not necessarily paranormal, but something else. So my mum was in her ensuite and I was in my bedroom, and this is, I can't really remember it that well, but I remember the experience very well. But essentially she had called me into the bathroom. I walked in and I could see that she was looking out the window at something. So I walked over to see what it was, and all I could see was a ball of light just hovering in the sky. Really, really bright white light in the night sky. The house itself, this was facing the garden, and then beyond the garden there were just fields and then another house and more fields. So it's quite a rural place that I lived in, albeit being on a main road. But yeah, we were looking at this light in the sky and I immediately thought, maybe it's a UFO. Because I've never seen one before, I wouldn't really know what to expect. Obviously I've seen videos of sightings, but I wouldn't really know how you would feel seeing it or what it was meant to look like. But I just remember feeling odd, almost in awe looking at it. And the fact that we couldn't explain what it was just immediately told me that this is something else. Just as we were getting used to looking at it, it suddenly darted downwards. So it was here and it darted downwards, and it's not like it darted downwards and then carried on going. It darted downwards and then it just stayed. So it was a really quick motion, so much control from there to there. This must have been, I mean, I can't really tell, it was quite far away, but like 50 meters or something. But yeah, it went straight down and it just hovered exactly how it was, but just lower down in the sky. And then before we knew it, it started darting to the left and then would pause and then would dart to the right. And I know I sound crazy when I'm talking about this, but that is what I experienced. And the fact that I saw it and my mum saw it, that's two people of two very different ages. You know, my mum's 32 years older than me. It's not like I'm a kid and I was seeing things and I was experiencing something that wasn't there. It happened and it was in the sky and it was doing that. And you may ask, why didn't you get a phone out and record it? Well, at this point I think, I must have been 10 or something. We didn't really have phones that could record that well. But also, the fact that we were in awe and we could not explain what we were seeing in front of us, it does something to you. So the last thing you're thinking about is getting your phone. And I know that sounds like a cliche answer, like that's very convenient. It is the truth. Maybe I would feel differently today because phones are ridiculously more developed and they would do a better job at recording it, but I didn't think about it. I did not think about getting my phone or any device to record it. That's probably like one of the biggest experiences I've had, because I genuinely saw something. It wasn't that I just felt something or the dogs were reacting, it was in the sky. And you know, whether it was paranormal or something else, we will never know. Now we will come back to the house that I grew up in, but I'm just really quickly going to touch upon my nan, who is passed now, but when I was younger she would tell me stories about her experiences, and it's probably one of the reasons I am so fascinated with the paranormal, and one of the reasons I genuinely believe there has to be something else out there. The amount of experiences people have had, including my own family, everybody can't be mad. Everybody can't be crazy. One such experience was that me, my cousin, my granddad and my nan, we were at Longleat for the day. And Longleat, if you don't know, it's a tourist attraction, but essentially it is a sanctuary for animals. It has mazes and fun activities. We were out at Longleat and we were actually inside the mansion having a tour, and we were just walking down, you know, in big old houses you normally have a gallery. It's just a really long room and it has a rug that starts at one end and finishes at the other, and it is just essentially for walking. And that is what it used to be, because I used to work at a National Trust place which had a gallery, and essentially that room was for walking, for exercising, for the rich people because there seems to be a pattern of rich people not wanting to go outside back in those days, because if you were pale then you were seen as wealthy, and if you were tan that meant you were having to work outside and therefore you were of low class. But I digress. We were in this gallery And you know, like the partitions you get in fancy houses that just segregate maybe the bathtub from the rest of the room. There was one of those, and it was just off the centre of the room. My nan was walking with us through this room, and she stopped and turned to me and leaned in, and she started whispering that she could see a little girl behind the partition. And I immediately, my eyes were like, what? Like, this is happening now? And I looked over straight away, and I couldn't see anything. There was nothing there that I could see. But she was adamant there was something there. There was a little girl, and she was wearing a dress, and she was, I think she even said she was giggling or smiling or something of that sort. And yeah, I think it's given me goosebumps now, and I think it did at the time. And I didn't tell my cousin at the time because she was younger than me, and my nan didn't want to speak her out either, so she just told me. And yeah, I feel very flattered that she told me that and shared that experience. And it's, you know, she obviously felt that she could trust me to not laugh at her. Another one of her stories revolved around her late husband. It started out small, so she would find that trinkets were going missing from her room, and they would turn up in different places that she knew she hadn't put them in. At this point, I forgot to add that she was living with my great nan, so I believe she moved back into my great nan's bungalow. So she was in one of the bedrooms at my great nan's house, and she woke up in the middle of the night and she could feel a presence in the room, and she looked over at the door to the bedroom and she could see her late husband. And she added that he was very, very tall, and that because of this he was essentially leaning on top of the door, so standing, leaning on the door and smiling, just smiling at her. Again, I'm getting goosebumps because these stories, it's one thing to hear a ghost story from someone that you don't know over the internet, such as from me, but it's another thing to hear it from someone you love, someone who is a part of your life. And retelling it now, it just feels so real. So moving back to the house that I lived in as a child,
I got a bad feeling about this.
my sister had an experience in that house. So I'm the youngest of 3 girls. My middle sister, she had the only bedroom downstairs, and it was quite isolated from the rest of the house. You had to walk all the way through the house to get to the lounge and then to reach her bedroom, so it was like going back on yourself. But she was sat in her bedroom doing her makeup in the mirror, sat on the floor with a big rectangular mirror in front of her, and her ensuite was behind her, and the mirror faced the ensuite, so you could see the ensuite behind as when you looked into the mirror. The way she described it happening was that it was very sudden. So she was doing her makeup in the mirror, and all of a sudden this man appeared behind her in the doorway to her ensuite, just looking at her. She didn't know who he was. She described him as an older aged man. But after this experience, we then gave this spirit a name, and if anything happened after, we would say, oh, it's Leonard. And that is the name we gave him. So moving on then to my mum's experiences, she would always smell the smell of tobacco, and she would mostly smell that on the landing, and that was in fact part of the old house, so that would have been there from 1780. So yeah, my mum would always smell the smell of tobacco. And in fact, I've just remembered this second, I was in my bedroom and she called me out onto the landing, and she directly asked me, can you not smell that? It is so strong. And I actually had to stand right up close to her, and she even moved out the way so I could stand where she was standing and she could smell the smell, and I could not smell anything. Not even the faintest smell of tobacco. The last experience I'm going to leave you with today is my mum's again. So before I tell this experience, the hallway that I was talking about earlier, leading from the kitchen, that would lead from the kitchen, and then from the hallway you could either go upstairs or you go into the next room, which was the dining room. My mum was walking down this hallway and she was gonna go up the stairs, but all of a sudden she saw something in the corner of her eye, and so she turned to face the dining room and she could see this ball of light just hovering above the dining room table. And without a warning, this ball dropped towards the dining room table, and before it hit the table, it vanished. And she said this probably took about a second or two. It was that quick. She turned, saw it, dropped, and it was gone. And as soon as she told me, I was like, well, that's an orb. You've seen an orb. And what makes my mum's stories even more believable is that she is not a believer in the paranormal like I am. She doesn't know certain vocabulary about the paranormal. I had to explain to her that that was what it was. It's a ball of energy, it's like a spirit. And she looked at me just really confused, and that just solidified in me that she must have seen something. Never have I ever seen a spirit in front of me in the form of an orb, or a man standing in a doorway looking at me. I feel like maybe that's my own fault, because I am very much into science and I have a very deterministic view on the world, and maybe that pushes out a lot of what would have been opportunity for the paranormal to show itself. But yeah, I still believe there is something after life. And do let me know in the comments as well what your views are on this, and if you actually think there is something beyond this life. But yeah, those are my experiences and the experiences of my family. I really hope this creeped you out a little bit and got you into the mood for the spooky season. Do share any of your experiences in the comments if you do wish. I would love to know if you've experienced anything spooky, creepy. And I will be posting another video very soon, and until then, take care.